The cold morning light crept through the tiny cottage window, casting long shadows across Emma Harrison's weary face. Her alarm clock rang at 4:30 a.m., a sound that had become more familiar than her own heartbeat. She pulled herself from the worn-out bed, careful not to wake her aging father sleeping in the next room. Emma was 28, but the lines on her face told a story of struggles far beyond her years. Her small hands, rough from years of cleaning and factory work, moved quickly as she prepared. A simple breakfast. One slice of toast, split carefully to share with her father, Robert, who had been battling a long-term illness for the past 3 years. The walls of their cottage whispered stories of better times. Faded photographs showed a happier family. Before her mother's passing, before the medical bills started piling up, before Emma became the sole provider for her family. Her younger brother Jack was at university, a dream she was determined to keep alive, even if it meant sacrificing everything. Outside, the Bristol morning was grey and unforgiving. Emma checked her work uniform, carefully ironed the night before, and made sure her father's medication was prepared. Robert would need his pills at precise times, and she had arranged for Mrs. Thompson from next door to check on him during the day. Her first job started at 6 a.m. at the local cleaning company. Large office buildings needed to be spotless before the businessmen and women arrived. Emma worked quickly and silently, her mind always calculating how much money she needed, how many hours she must work to keep their small world together, Twaito. Midday she would rush to the factory, changing into her second uniform. The machinery was loud, the work monotonous, but Emma never complained. Each movement was a prayer. Each hour worked a promise to her family that they would survive. Her brother Jack didn't know the full extent of their struggles. Emma's letters were always positive, filled with encouraging words and small jokes. She wanted him to focus on his studies, to have the opportunity she never had. The thought of Jack achieving his dreams kept her going through the longest and hardest days. Money was always tight. Some weeks she would walk instead of taking the bus to save every penny. Her meals were simple, bread, occasional eggs, whatever she could afford, but Emma's spirit remained unbroken. She believed that hard work would eventually bring change. The quiet moments between jobs, she would look at her father. Robert had been a proud man once, a skilled carpenter who could build anything with his hands. Now illness had reduced him to a shadow of his former self. Emma would gently adjust his blanket, kiss his forehead and whisper, "We'll be okay, Dad." The community knew Emma, not as a hero, but as a quiet force of nature. The local shopkeeper would sometimes slip an extra loaf of bread into her bag. Mrs. Thompson would leave warm meals for Robert. These small acts of kindness were the threads that held their difficult life together. As evening approached, Emma would return home exhausted but determined. She would prepare dinner, help her father with his medication, clean their small home, and then prepare for the next day. Her own dreams had been placed on a shelf, covered in dust but not forgotten. Sometimes, in the deepest part of the night, Emma would allow herself a moment of vulnerability. She would sit by the window, looking at the moonlit street, and wonder about her own future. But these moments were brief. Self-pity was a luxury she could not afford. Her life was a delicate balance, working 2 jobs, caring for her father, supporting her brother's education, maintaining their small home. Each day was a battle, each night a small victory. Emma didn't see herself as special. She was just doing what needed to be done. As she prepared for bed, checking her alarm, making sure everything was ready for the next day, Emma allowed herself a small smile. They would survive. They would get through this. One day at a time. The cottage grew quiet. Outside, the Bristol night settled in, cold and silent, witnessing the unbreakable spirit of a woman who refused to give up. The letter arrived on a cold Wednesday morning, its crisp white envelope looking almost menacing against the worn kitchen table. Emma's hands trembled slightly as she opened it, her eyes scanning the words that would change everything in an instant. The factory was closing. Permanent shutdown. No more jobs, no more steady income. Her mind raced through their fragile financial situation. The medical bills for her father, Robert, were already overwhelming. Jack's university fees were a constant worry. And now half of her income had vanished with a single piece of paper. Emma sat quietly, allowing herself just 5 minutes of pure fear. 5 minutes to feel the weight of uncertainty, the panic rising in her chest. Then, just as quickly, she pushed those feelings down. Panic would not feed her family. Action would. Her cleaning job had already been reducing her hours. The local businesses were struggling, and cleaning contracts were being cut left and right. Emma realized she was facing the most significant challenge of her life. That afternoon, she visited the community job center. The small room was filled with other desperate job seekers, each face telling a story of struggle. Emma sat patiently, her folder of carefully prepared applications clutched tightly in her hands. The job center manager, a kind-faced woman named Margaret, looked at Emma's work history. "You're hard-working," she said, "but competition is tough right now." The words hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Back home, Emma didn't want to worry her father or share the full extent of their new challenges. Robert was already battling his illness, and she refused to add more stress to his fragile health. She prepared his evening meal with extra care, her smile hiding the storm of worry inside her. That night, after ensuring her father was comfortable, Emma sat by the window. The street outside was quiet, the street lamps casting soft shadows. She began making lists. Expenses, potential job opportunities, ways to cut costs, her brother Jack called that evening. He was excited about a university project, talking quickly about his studies. Emma listened, her heart swelling with pride. She would not let her challenges affect his dreams. She would find a way. The next few weeks became a blur of job applications. Emma applied everywhere: restaurants, shops, offices, cleaning services. She walked miles between potential employers, her shoes wearing thin, her spirit somehow remaining unbroken. Some days were harder than others. Rejection letters piled up. Interviews that seemed promising ended with polite "we'll call you" that never came. But Emma never stopped. Each rejection was just another step towards an opportunity. She started taking online courses during her free time, learning new skills that might improve her job prospects. Computer skills, basic accounting, customer service, anything that might give her an edge in the competitive job market. The local community began to notice her determination. Mrs. Thompson from next door started recommending her for small cleaning jobs. The local cafe owner would give her extra work when possible. These small kindnesses were lifelines in her challenging time. Her father, despite his illness, remained her biggest supporter. "You're stronger than any challenge," he would tell her, his voice weak but filled with pride. Those words became her daily motivation. Jack sent money from his part-time university job, insisting she use it for their household expenses. Emma was touched but also determined to protect her brother's own financial journey. She would find another way. As weeks turned into months, Emma's resilience became legendary in their small community. People spoke about her not with pity, but with admiration. A young woman who faced impossible challenges with quiet strength and unwavering hope. One evening, as she prepared a simple dinner, Emma realized something important. Challenges were not meant to break her, but to reveal her true strength. She might not have control over every situation, but she had complete control over her response. The kitchen was warm. Her father was sleeping peacefully in the next room, and despite everything, hope remained. Emma allowed herself a small smile. Tomorrow was another day, and she was ready to face it. The night settled around the small cottage, a silent witness to one woman's extraordinary, ordinary courage. The morning light broke through the cottage's curtains, casting a soft glow on Emma's tired face. She had been awake since dawn, her fingers scrolling through online job listings, her determination as strong as ever. Her routine remained unchanged. Check on her father, prepare his breakfast, ensure his medications were ready. But today felt different. Something in the air seemed to whisper of possibility. Emma dressed carefully in her best interview outfit, a simple blue blouse and pressed black trousers. She had learned that looking confident was half the battle. Her hair was neatly pulled back, her shoes polished to a shine. The community center had an opening. Part-time administrative work, but it was a chance. Emma had heard about the position through Mrs. Thompson, who knew the center's manager. She had spent hours preparing her application, checking and rechecking every detail. As she walked to the interview, the Bristol morning was crisp and clear. People rushed past her, each lost in their own world. But Emma walked with purpose, her folder of documents held tightly against her chest. The community center was an old building but welcoming. Colorful posters about local events covered the walls. Children's artwork decorated the reception area. Emma felt a sense of warmth as she approached the front desk. Margaret, the center's manager, greeted her with a kind smile. "Emma Harrison?" she asked, looking through a stack of papers. The interview began, and Emma could feel her heart racing. She spoke about her experience, her dedication, her ability to work hard. But more than her words, it was her spirit that seemed to fill the room. Margaret listened carefully, watching, the young woman before her. Questions came about her work history, her skills, her ability to handle multiple tasks. Emma answered honestly without drama, but with a quiet confidence that was impossible to ignore. "We've had many applicants," Margaret said towards the end of the interview, "but there's something special about you." The words hung in the air, filled with possibility. Hours later, the phone call came. Emma could hardly believe her ears. Part-time work, with potential for more hours. Not a fortune, but a lifeline. A chance to breathe, to hope. That evening, she told her father the news. Robert's eyes filled with tears of pride. "My girl," he whispered, squeezing her hand. Jack called, whooping with excitement when he heard the news. The job wasn't just about money. It was about connection. The community center was a hub of local activity. People from all walks of life came through its doors. Young mothers, elderly residents, job seekers, community volunteers. Emma discovered a new side of herself. She wasn't just filing papers or answering phones. She was helping people, connecting them with resources, offering a kind word, being a small but important part of their lives. Her first week was a blur of new experiences. Learning computer systems, understanding community programs, meeting people with incredible stories of resilience. Each day brought something new. The center's manager saw potential in Emma. "You have a gift," Margaret told her one afternoon. "You understand people." It was the greatest compliment Emma had ever received. Her financial situation wasn't solved overnight. They were still tight on money. Her father's medical bills continued to be a challenge, but something had changed. Hope had returned. She started helping organize community support groups, people facing job loss, struggling with medical expenses, fighting to keep their families together. Emma understood their struggles intimately. Her brother Jack was proud. "So you're making a difference," he told her during their weekly phone call. Emma knew he was right. She was doing more than just surviving. She was becoming someone who could help others survive. The cottage felt different now. There was less tension, more possibility. Her father's health seemed to improve with her renewed hope. Mrs. Thompson from next door started bringing extra meals, seeing the positive change in Emma. As night fell, Emma sat by the window, looking out at the street. The world seemed full of possibility. She had faced incredible challenges and found a way forward. Not through grand gestures, but through quiet, consistent determination. The Bristol night settled around her, a gentle reminder that hope always finds a way. The community center became Emma's second home. What started as a part-time job slowly transformed into something much deeper, a lifeline for herself and countless others in her small Bristol neighborhood. Her first community support group was nerve-wracking. Emma stood before a room of strangers, people who had lost jobs, struggled with medical expenses, faced seemingly impossible challenges. Her hands shook slightly as she began speaking, sharing her own story of survival. Something magical happened that evening. People who had felt alone suddenly realized they were not fighting their battles in isolation. A factory worker named Tom spoke about losing his job after 25 years. A single mother named Linda shared her struggles of raising 2 children while searching for work. Emma listened, really listened. Her own experiences had taught her that sometimes people just needed someone to hear them. She began organizing weekly meetings, creating a network of support that grew stronger with each passing month. The community center became more than just a building. It became a beacon of hope. People started sharing resources, job leads, affordable childcare options, medical support groups. Emma was at the center of this growing web of connection. Her father, Robert, noticed the change in her. "You've found your calling," he would tell her, his eyes bright with pride. Emma would smile, knowing that her struggles had led her to this moment of purpose. Local businesses started taking notice. The cafe owner, who had once given her occasional cleaning work, now became a regular supporter of the community programs. The local grocery store began donating food for support group meetings. Emma's brother Jack would call, amazed by the stories she would share. "You're changing lives," he would say, and Emma would laugh, explaining that she was simply doing what needed to be done. The support groups expanded. They weren't just about sharing problems but finding solutions. Emma helped people create action plans. She connected job seekers with potential employers. She found resources for families struggling with medical expenses. Her own family benefited. From this network, Mrs. Thompson helped with her father's care when Emma worked. The local pharmacy gave discounts on Robert's medications. The community had become their extended family. One particularly challenging week, Emma organized a community fundraiser. They raised money for 3 families facing medical challenges. The event brought together people from all walks of life, young and old, wealthy and struggling. Margaret, her manager at the community center, watched Emma with growing admiration. "You have a gift," she would often say. Emma would blush, uncomfortable with praise, but knowing she was making a difference. The network grew. People who had once felt hopeless began helping others. Tom, the factory worker who had shared his story months ago, now helped other job seekers with their resumes. Linda started a childcare support group. Emma's world had expanded. Her days were no longer just about surviving, but about helping others survive. Each person she helped was a small victory, a testament to the power of human connection. Her father's health improved. The stress that had once dominated their home was replaced by hope. Jack continued his studies, inspired by his sister's work. The small cottage that had once felt like a prison now felt like a sanctuary. The community began to change. People who had felt isolated found connection. Those struggling found support. Emma had become more than just an employee at the community center. She was a catalyst for change. Winter came, bringing its own challenges. But the network Emma had built was strong. They supported each other through job losses, medical challenges, family struggles. No one was alone anymore. One evening, as she prepared to close the community center, Emma looked around the room. Photos of community events covered the walls. Success stories of people who had found jobs, overcome challenges, supported each other. She thought about her journey, from a struggling daughter trying to support her family to a community leader bringing people together. Life had a way of surprising you, of turning challenges into opportunities. The Bristol night settled around the community center, a quiet witness to the power of human connection. Emma smiled, knowing that tomorrow would bring another chance to make a difference. Hope, she had learned, was not something you found. It was something you built one person at a time. A year had passed since Emma first walked into the community center, uncertain and afraid. Now she stood as its most respected coordinator, a beacon of hope for an entire community. Her father, Robert, watched her with pride from his improved medical chair. The past year had brought unexpected healing, not just for him, but for their entire family. Medical treatments had become more manageable, thanks to the support network Emma had created. Jack was excelling at university, his studies supported by the connections and resources Emma had helped him find. He would call weekly, sharing stories of his achievements, his voice filled with love and admiration for his sister. The community center had transformed. What was once a simple building now buzzed with activity. Job training programs, support groups, medical resource connections, all thrived under Emma's leadership. She had become more than an employee. She was a community architect. Local businesses now actively participated in their programs. The cafe owner who once gave her occasional cleaning work now sponsored job training workshops. The local grocery store provided food for community events. What started as small acts of kindness had grown into a powerful support system. Emma's weekly support groups had become legendary. People from across Bristol would attend, sharing stories of struggle and triumph. Tom, the factory worker who once felt hopeless, now led job search workshops. Linda, the single mother, had started her own childcare support network. Her own journey became an inspiration. Emma would sometimes share her story of losing jobs, struggling to support her family, finding hope in the most challenging moments. Her honesty connected people, showing them that vulnerability was not weakness but strength. The local council took notice. They began funding more community programs, inspired by the work Emma had done. What started in a small community centre was now creating ripples of change across the entire region. Margaret, her original manager, had become more than a boss. She was a mentor, a friend who had seen potential in Emma when no one else did. "You've changed everything," Margaret would tell her, her eyes bright with pride. Financial stability came slowly but surely. Emma now had a full-time position at the community centre. Her father's medical expenses were more manageable. Jack's university education was secure. They were no longer just surviving. They were thriving. The cottage that had once felt like a burden now felt like a home of hope. Mrs. Thompson continued to help, now more as a friend than a neighbour. The community had become their extended family. Emma's methods were simple but powerful. She listened, she connected, she believed in people's potential. Each person who walked through the community centre's doors was treated with respect, given resources, supported in their journey. Her work went beyond job searches and support groups. She helped people rediscover their dignity. People who had felt invisible suddenly felt seen. Those who had lost hope found a path forward. The local media did a story on her work. "The Woman Who Rebuilt a Community," the headline read. Emma was uncomfortable with the attention, but understood the importance of sharing their story of transformation. Her brother Jack would visit during university breaks, helping with community programs. The siblings had become a powerful team, their love and support for each other evident in everything they did. As another year approached, Emma reflected on their journey. The challenges had not disappeared, but they had learned to face them together. Community was not just a word, it was a living, breathing support system. The Bristol evening settled around her, soft and gentle. From her window, she could see the community centre, lights still burning as people continued to find hope, connection, support. Her father called her over, squeezing her hand. "I'm so proud of you," he whispered. Emma's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness but of joy. They had survived. They had thrived. They had transformed. Hope, she had learned, was not a destination. It was a journey, taken one step at a time. Together. The night whispered around them, a testament to the power of human connection, resilience, and unwavering hope.